Hello, welcome back to Math Time with Professor Prime. I'm your host as always, Professor Prime. Let's talk about math in Forspoken. Um, so here's how this video is going to go. I'm going to talk about Forspoken. I'm going to talk about how math plays a role in various elements of Forspoken. I will be focusing on the combat as well as the traversal because that's a big part of the game. And as we go on, I'll be talking about my feeling about those things and how math again is involved in those, among other things, right? And you can assume spoilers ahead, but I'm actually going to try to not get too heavy in the spoilers because I wanted to focus on the gameplay. But I'm going to talk about my feelings on the story and characters while trying to keep it vague as much as possible. But I will say, in order to talk about some of the things with the gameplay, I guess like I don't have to talk about certain elements, but it would be helpful to talk about them. And so there will be some light spoilers in that regard, or at least this is the plan. But if you wanted to go in completely spoiler free, then I get not wanting to watch this. But if you don't mind, or you're just keeping in mind what I said and you're taking that risk, or you've already played the game, or you just simply don't care, then by all means stick around. So let's get started, shall we? And again, you can assume spoilers ahead just to be safe. Um, let's get started. So, Forspoken is an action adventure RPG where you play as Frey, who is a character I enjoy, but we'll talk about her more later. Um, at the core of its gameplay is not only combat, but traversal. And what I find interesting about that is in a lot of games, especially ones that are like combat heavy, right? You're using them to navigate, or sorry, you're using combat to get through, like, the story, and in part navigate the world. And in some cases, there are elements of the gameplay mechanics that you can use in combat that you can also use, throughout the story, right? To progress in that sense. Think like a basic jump or double jump, or I guess both. Through most games, right? You can use that in combat in a lot of different games, but also to help with some platforming elements and things along those lines. Now, while this is the case, it's gonna turn up to 11 and Forspoken, and that's why I wanted to bring that up. And we'll get into that further. So, with all that in mind, there's math all across the board. I mean, like, math is everywhere and it's in everything. And I feel like with gaming, it gives you an opportunity to talk about that in some more concrete ways. So I'm gonna start breaking down like the combat and kind of lead into the traversal, and kind of go from there and share my thoughts throughout, and more at the end. And I'll probably give another spoiler warning just in case when I get to that part. But I will say, for part of the combat, it again, it doesn't necessarily require me to talk about different elements of the story, but it's helpful. So keep that in mind. There will be like spoilers in that. Um, I try to give spoiler warnings as much as I can. Yeah, I'll say with the combat, it's very fun to me. The idea is magic is at the front and center, but that actually ends up meaning a lot of different things. It's a magical parkour system, and I think that's dope. And it's awesome and interesting. And as far as the main combat goes, right? The idea is you want to dish out damage while trying to avoid taking damage. And as you're doing these things and you're winning battles, you are gaining experience points and leveling up and increasing your stats as you play through the world as Frey. And while you're doing that, there are different ways that you go about the basics of combat, which, again, it's like you're trying to dish out damage while trying to not take it, right? Or trying to recover from it if you do take it. And with that in mind, like, it's just something that's inherently mathematical, right? You're starting off 100. You're trying to not go to zero in terms of, your health. If you look at it that way, you're starting at 100% and you're trying not to go to 0%. And you're trying to get your opponent to go to 0%. And they're starting off at 100%. That's one way to look at that. And I think that's pretty cool because it's like, right, we all have our health. And with video games, it lets you like quantify that in a visual way. And I think that's cool. So I'm sorry, it's late and my shirt isn't acting how I want. Um, and I can see it as I'm recording, but I'm getting distracted. All right, so I'm gonna try to move past it. So anyway, you have the core of this gameplay, and like I said, that's something that's mathematical. But then there's other ways that you can start to see that play out, right? So when you start the game, you have phrase magic, you have that earth magic, that sort of thing, and it's pretty cool. And you have two main modes of attacking. You have attack magic and support magic. With support magic, there are some offensive things that you can do, but there's also some defensive ones as well. And it's worth noting. And we're gonna get in that too. So you're dishing out damage while trying to not take it, or trying to minimize it as much as possible, right? And you have your attack magic, you have your support magic, and you have surge magic, and we'll get to that too. Um, all the while, you have your health and your stamina, and you can visually see that. And throughout the game, you do gain more magic, and you also can increase your maximum health, you can increase your maximum stamina. You also get gear. Now, with that gear, you get a necklace and you get a cloak. And each of those items, like you get a variety of them, right? You get different necklaces throughout the game, you get different cloaks, and they have their own specialties, like their own abilities, and they boost phrase stats or sometimes give her extra abilities. And throughout the games, you also find these like tanta, sorry, like the tanta. I don't know why I said tanta. The tanta nail sets. I don't know. I was putting some things together in my head, but anyway, you got the Tonta nail sets, right? That's the thing, and they can boost different stats for Frey as well as well as give her different abilities, and uh, I am sorry, so many ideas in my head. But anyway, so you have the gear, you have the nails. They allow you to customize phrase abilities and stats. And speaking of those stats, you have some ones that are on the surface and then some ones that are kind of underneath the surface, right? Like on the surface, you have things like health, you have things like stamina, you have things like healing and defense. You also have the four different types of magic that you get throughout the main game: green magic, purple magic, blue magic, and red magic. It's not the order that I wanted to say that in. What I wanted to say was like purple, red, blue, and then green. Because I wanted to say it in the order that you got those. But that's not what happened. But I am digressing again. It is late, and my mind is all over the place today. But I'm rolling with it. So in any case, each of those stats can increase whether through the items or through you leveling up, and that's pretty cool. Now, all that is math, and that's awesome. I want to talk about the traversal for a bit, as well as some other things that you could do during the gameplay. So the main idea is you're going around, right? You're defeating your opponents. You're navigating the story. And as you are gaining experience, it's easier to get through the story, right? Like you're gaining experience, you're boosting your stats, you're leveling up, and that's pretty cool. Now, is you're doing all these things, right? And you're getting from point A to point B in combat, and also you can use this in combat is like the ability to traverse like your environments. It comes in handy both in the combat and just navigating the realms. So one of the things that you can also do in combat is evade, by using a sprint feature, right? And with that sprint feature, it's key in getting around. And as you go on and you get different magical abilities, and you defeat opponents, you gain new ways to traverse the realm as well. Now with that with that sprint function, right? It allows you to do like parkour. Now it does take stamina, so you will have to, pay attention. And the good news is it recovers quickly. Quickly, and you can increase the rate at which it recovers as you go on, if you should choose to do that. Um, so that's interesting, right? And so you can do some cool things with that parkour. You can explore different terrains, and whatever you're doing with the exploration, right? There's math in it. Partially because you have the world itself, how it's built. the scale and scope of it all, but also you have Frey and how she's moving throughout that world and how you're moving as her. And in the beginning, you have the parkour, so there's plenty that you can do with that, scaling different like mountains and buildings and stuff like that. But as you go on, you could also do things like surf on the water pretty much, as well as find some ways to get some extra height when you're scaling and stuff like that. You also can glide at a certain point. So it's like pretty cool because as you face the Tantas, um, Tantas. Oh my God, why is that throwing me off today? So when you face the Tantas, um, you get access to their magic. I mean, it's a little bit more complicated than that when you actually get into the story, but that's how it's presented to you. Um, And so I find that interesting too because the math is working on so many different levels in that gameplay. Because it's like, right, you have your abilities and you have to choose what you're doing with those abilities while also, looking at the bosses and their health and their abilities and countering those abilities. Um, and it's pretty cool because it's like you have to be a high enough level, then fine tune the way that you play the game and then go after those opponents, right? And then once you beat them, you get different ways to explore, and that exploration leads to some things that you can do throughout the game, and we'll get to that too. But anyway, beating the Tantas gives you access to their magic in a roundabout way. And some of that magic is tied to the way that you traverse the world. Like, for instance, if you get like the red magic, right, it's fire based, that gives you a new way to not only attack certain opponents, and we'll get more into that. But it also allows you to kind of like grab different rock structures and pull yourself up. And so, and with the blue magic, you get water abilities, and that allows you um, to surf on the water if you get a certain spell, as well as like glide um, and things like that. Um, and with the green magic, it kind of gives you, I don't know, there's a lot of abilities that it gives you, but there's one where it allows you to like kind of do a bunch of jumps in the air and get you more height. But in that case, you do have to be careful because it's not as easy to then climb back up using your parkour ability. So it's like you have to be very careful how you do that. And it's kind of like with the gliding, where you have to be careful how you do that too, because you glide to a certain part, and maybe you're able to climb, but maybe you're not able to grab onto one of the rock structures right away. So you got to be careful with that. But to kind of circle back through the traversal, it's very fascinating to me, and all the abilities can be used in combat. And the thing is, like, right, so they work really well in tandem together because you're going around and you're fighting your opponents. You're trying to not lose your health. But as you're going to different areas, right? There are different like towers and regions where if you go there, you can unlock different parts of the archive to learn about the world, sure, and you can get experience, sure, but you're also getting different cloaks, different necklaces, different nail set, or nets, nail sets, um, and so you know it's begging you to explore. And you can also find different spells along the way to make Frey more powerful, as well as traverse the world even better. And so you're encouraged to explore. So you have this nice loop where you're going around, you're defeating opponents, you're getting stronger, you're getting faster, able better to traverse the environment, all the while get into these environments where you have to get through like combat wise, or you have to do some innovation with the traversal, and so you're building up your skills to build up your skills even more. And then when you face the Tantas, um, like you defeat them, and so I guess that was my light spoiler thing. It's like it's part of the mechanic, and it's like I don't know, people might want to go in there not knowing that, but the idea is like you defeat them and you get more powerful, and I think that's all cool. And so it's like you get into this idea of Frey trying to learn these abilities. Is you're learning these abilities, you're getting experience. Is she's getting experience, you're navigating this realm. Is she's navigating this realm, and you're uncovering its secrets and its mysteries, and your successes are her successes are your successes, and you're seeing how the world at large reacts to that. And I think that's such a beautiful thing that you could do with video game, right? Like with video games, you get this interactive opportunity to learn and build empathy. And I like how that unique aspect of video games is used with Forspoken. Um, and here's the thing, so because there's so many different things you could talk about, I did want to talk about like so back to the combat, right? Um, you got your magic sets, and for the main game, you can get up to four different types of magic. Um, you know, like the ones that I was saying, like purple, blue, red, and green. And you can alternate between them on a whim. So you can have some fun. You can mix and match. You can check out your opponents and see their vulnerabilities because like that is a part of the game too. Like you're gonna have certain enemies weak to certain magics. So you know you can alternate on the fly. You can scan them. You can adjust. You can evade. You can do so many different things while like paying attention to your stamina throughout the game. You can develop like cloaks and stuff like that that allow you to auto heal to a degree. So it's like, hey, you're recovering health if you're moving, if you're doing this, if you're doing that. But you also get these things like healing droughts, and you can build that up throughout the game. And that brings me to crafting. But before I get into crafting, I will say there's also like stats elements, you know, like for instance, poison, stamina reduction or recovery speed, things like that. So that's another element to consider. But with crafting, it's like so you have this idea of resource management, right? And again, it's like it's all math. You're collecting a certain number of each item for your resources, right? And as you're doing that, this allows you to also build up your resources in the capacity, right? Like there's certain special items that allow you to build up the capacity of your bag. And there's also certain items that allow you to increase your maximum. Oh, sorry, the maximum amount of like healing droughts that you can carry. So you're building up resources along the way. You're getting different items. You're constructing new resources with the resources you have to like upgrade your cloak, upgrade your necklace, and get different effects, right? And I think that's all cool because like there's so much going on with all that, right? Because you have math in that basic combat sense of like dishing out damage and trying to not take it, but then you have that idea that you can attack with different magical abilities, and like and of those four main types, like you have your attack magic, which is like it's I mean I was gonna say like purely offensive, but that's not completely true either because like the one of Frey's magic abilities while she's using her powers, the earth powers, is that you can do a shield, but that could be like defense and then offense. um but my whole thing is just like, so you have the four magic, well, four types of magic, and then within those types of magic, there's three forms that the attack magic can take, right? Like, for instance, with phrase magic, the earth magic, that you start with, there's like a burst shot that you can do where you can charge it up and then send out like a giant rock. There's like a scatter shot ability, which is like a machine gun, and then there's like a shield ability, and each of the types of magic has that sort of thing. And so you can unlock those abilities as you go. Like along the way, right? You're collecting mana, and you can use that mana to power up your magic. Um, and it's really cool because like so some of the magic like you can gain new abilities, but for some of the abilities that you have, even if you didn't have them originally, right, you can power them up further, right? Like you can charge your attack magic with the three types that I was saying, per magic, and get different effects. um and so it's like what started off as just like, hey, you can attack and you defend. It's like, hey, you have four types of magic with three subtypes of that magic, and then you have the support magic, where there's a variety of abilities that you can collect and expand. And then you have the idea of surge magic, which, it's like you're pressing the buttons for attack and support magic at the same time after you have collected enough energy to do so. And then you're unleashing this like wide area attack, which can just get crazier and crazier, like power up to their max. It's like you can charge, with like each part. It's like there's three steps to it. So it's like, oh, you can charge and then bam, or you can release your attack, but you can charge some more and then unleash it, or you can charge all the way up. So it's like you got those three steps to it once you've upgraded those items. And that's really cool. And so just from that, right, you already have a more complex way of fighting. And then you have the idea that you can evade, that you can use the things that you've developed for traversal in combat. There are ways to make that work. And all the while, there are these like mini challenges that you get for different magic that you can like boost their attack or boost how effective they are in general, if you complete those subtasks. And all the while, you're dishing out damage, trying to avoid taking it. You're traversing the world. You're collecting resources that will make you stronger, and allow you to traverse the world better. And all the while, you're doing all of this to help navigate the story. And in the remaining time, I am going to talk about that, because there's so many other things that I could talk about for Spoken. I'm just like, I really like the combat system. I like how well it ties with the way that you traverse the world. You got this magical parkour situation, and it just really works. So I'm going to take the remaining time, though, to talk about my feelings on Forspoken. I might talk about spoilers a little bit. So, and I said that a few times in the beginning, so just keep that in mind. Um, with Forspoken, um, like I dig it. I dig it hard. Like I'm just wrapping some things up, even though I beat the game like the other week. So like this is the kind of game where I easily put over 100 hours into it, and when that happens for me, it's a good indicator that I like the game. I mean, it's like there's some games where I haven't put that much time in, but it's just like saying if I have though, that's a good sign. I do feel like it was not marketed as well as it could be. It wasn't pushed as well as it could be, and I feel like some snap decisions were made because of perceived lackluster sales. And that's the business side of video games, and it's like I don't know. It's been wild times because right, I feel like we've been getting some killer games, but the industry has been having some struggles, right? And you can make an argument that there's always had struggles, but like at the time we're recording, like in this last year or so, it's been kind of ridiculous. Like it just insane. But I digress. With Forspoken, I think it's an excellent game, and it's been on my list for a long time. I couldn't play it for a long time because I didn't have a PS5, but I got one this year, and I've been working my way through my lists. And there's so many other games on that list, but it's been pretty cool because like since I got the PS5, it's like I got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Enjoyed the crap out of that game, and in a decision that I didn't expect, because I was going to like give it a breather. I played Final Fantasy 16, um, and when I was done with that, there were so many different areas to explore. Um, I played. Oh my god, I'm sorry, I'm blanking. I played Stellar Blade, and then like Spider-Man 2, and like Hi-Fi Rush, and now Forspoken. And there's probably like one or two more games that I cannot remember at the immediate moment. I've been keeping track, so I'm gonna put out a list at after all the games are played this year. But it's been an excellent game. I'm sorry, an excellent year of gaming for me personally. Forspoken is the most recent one that I've played, and it has been excellent. I hope that more people play it. And it's just like whatever credit that it has gotten, it's not enough. Because like I've seen some mixed reviews on it. Or sorry, I've seen some reviews and it's been like mixed reviews, and some people do talk about how great it is, and some people don't. And with the people who don't, it's like I mean, Some of it is just opinion, so it's like, okay, that's fine. You don't like this thing and that thing, and that's okay. But some of it is just like stuff that like legitimately isn't true. Like it's like, hey, you said this thing happened or didn't happen in the game, and it's like, no, that's incorrect. Like I played the game. Um, so it's just like you hear some weird things or some nitpicking stuff, but like I think overall it's an excellent game. And for the opinion based stuff, it's like it's not always great to hear like someone dislikes something that you like, but it's like it is what it is for that, right? My thing is just like when people lie about stuff, and I don't like that because that sucks. um, but yeah, so Forspoken is an excellent game. I hope more people play it. And if you've stuck with me this whole time, thank you for that. If you've played Forspoken, please feel free to talk about it. If you haven't, give it a whirl if you can afford to do so. I'll see you in the future. Professor Prime out.